1. Colm O'Driscoll. Few deaths in Red Dead Redemption 2 feel as richly deserved as Colm O'Driscoll's. From the very first missions, his name carries a stench of blood and misery. Leader of the O'Driscoll boys, Colm thrives on brutality, ordering raids, kidnappings, and ambushes that leave a trail of corpses across the frontier. His long-standing feud with Dutch consumes countless lives, and his obsession with revenge drives him to ever more despicable acts. By the time Colm is captured, the player has lived through the chaos he causes, making his trial and execution almost surreal. Watching him hauled to the gallows in St. Denis, still full of arrogance, spitting venom at the crowd, is pure catharsis. Even in his final moments, Colm tries to maintain his grip, sneering at the justice system, swearing vengeance, and acting as though he will somehow escape. But the noose waits for no man. When the trapdoor falls and his body jerks violently before going limp, it feels like years of bloodshed finally come to an end. Arthur doesn't smile, but players certainly feel a sense of grim satisfaction, the end of a parasite who spread nothing but pain. If you're a real fan of Red Dead 2, please subscribe. Number 2. Angelo Bronte. Angelo Bronte is arrogance personified. Nestled in his opulent mansion in St. Denis, he lords over the city like a king, dressing his corruption in silk suits and fine cigars. To him, people are pieces on a chessboard, moved and discarded at his whim. He looks down on Dutch, Arthur, and the gang, treating them like hired muscle, humiliating them with menial tasks while mocking them in the shadows. His smugness makes every interaction boil with tension, and his belief in his own invincibility makes players despise him all the more. When Dutch finally loses his patience, dragging Bronte from his decadent estate, the payoff is glorious. The rich, untouchable crime lord is suddenly nothing more than a terrified old man. Dutch throws him to the alligators in the swamp, a gruesome death that strips him of dignity. The way he thrashes and pleads before being devoured is both horrifying and deeply satisfying. This isn't just vengeance, it's poetic justice. A predator who once feasted on the weak from the safety of his mansion becomes prey in the jaws of nature itself. Leviticus Cornwall. Leviticus Cornwall doesn't need to be loud or flamboyant to earn hatred. He represents the cold, unstoppable advance of greed and industry. He buys up railroads, oil fields, and mines, crushing towns and lives beneath his empire. To him, human beings are nothing but tools, laborers to be worked to death, or obstacles to be bought out, intimidated, or destroyed. His funding of the Pinkertons makes him more than just a greedy businessman. He's the hand that constantly pushes the Van der Linde gang closer to annihilation. His death in Ansburg is a rare moment when justice catches up with power. Dutch confronts him, and Cornwall tries to maintain his air of superiority, even when staring down the barrel of a gun. His confidence makes sense. Men like Cornwall don't usually fall. They write history, reshape nations, and hide behind money and hired guns. But when Dutch finally pulls the trigger, Cornwall crumples like any other man. It's one of those moments where players feel the weight of the world shift, even slightly. The empire still stands, the trains will still run, and the oil will still flow. But for one brief moment, the great titan of industry lies broken in the dirt. Number 4. Catherine Braithwaite. Catherine Braithwaite is hatred in human form. A bitter matriarch clinging to fading power, she rules her plantation with venom and cruelty, her feud with the Grey family poisoning the entire region of Rhodes. Her contempt for the Van der Linde gang is matched only by her arrogance, as she believes wealth and lineage make her untouchable. Worst of all, she manipulates and uses her children like pawns in her endless cycle of bitterness, culminating in the abduction of Jack Marston, one of the most personal betrayals in the entire game. Her death feels like a cleansing fire. When the Van der Linde gang burns Braithwaite Manor to the ground, Catherine staggers out, shrieking curses and clinging to her crumbling pride. She raves about her family's legacy even as flames consume the estate behind her. But in the end, she's left broken and powerless, begging for mercy she never showed to others. Watching her meet her end in that fiery collapse feels deeply satisfying, not just because of what she did to Jack, but because it symbolizes the death of an old, rotting order built on cruelty and arrogance. Number 5. Agent Milton. Agent Milton embodies the corruption of law and order in Red Dead Redemption 2. Supposedly a man of justice, he is in truth a bully, manipulator, and executioner for the Pinkertons, working hand in hand with Leviticus Cornwall. Milton thrives on intimidation, stalking the Van der Linde gang with a smile that's as smug as it is sinister. His attempts to bribe, threaten, and destroy them make him one of the most loathed characters in the game. When Arthur finally confronts him at Beaver Hollow, the encounter is electrifying. Milton sneers at Arthur, acting as though the law will always win, and in some ways he's not wrong. But in that moment, when Milton drops dead from a bullet fired by Abigail, it feels righteous. A man who thought himself untouchable is dropped instantly, his threats silenced. It's satisfying not only because of his arrogance, but because Abigail, someone he saw as powerless, is the one who delivers the killing shot. Number 6. Micha Bell. Micha's death is arguably the most satisfying in the entire game. For hours upon hours, players watch his slimy influence spread through the gang, worming his way into Dutch's trust and undermining Arthur at every turn. He is treacherous, manipulative, and cruel, murdering innocents without a second thought and betraying his comrades for his own gain. His smirk, his drawl, his sheer audacity, all of it makes him loathed more than any other antagonist. By the time John Marston faces him in the snowy mountains years later, players are aching for revenge. The final duel, set against the howling wind and frozen peaks, is cinematic perfection. When Micha finally collapses in the snow, riddled with bullets, it feels like the release of years of pent-up fury. He was the true snake in the gang, the betrayer who tore apart everything Arthur fought for, and seeing him fall is not just satisfying, it's essential. 7. Cleet and Joe. Cleet and Joe are more than just Micha's lackeys, they're embodiments of his rot. Cruel, cowardly, and sadistic, they revel in the destruction Micha brings, acting as his muscle and tormenting anyone unlucky enough to cross their path. While they lack Micha's cunning, their loyalty to him makes them just as poisonous. Their deaths are particularly sweet because they're drawn out. John and Sadie track them down, capturing Cleet and giving the player the choice of whether to hang him or shoot him. Either way, it's personal, and it feels like cleansing a wound. Joe's death, in the chaos of the final assault, is less ceremonious, but no less satisfying. He falls like the thug he always was, insignificant in the grand scheme, but a necessary piece of rot removed from the world. Number 8. Molly O'Shea. Molly's death is tragic, but for many players, still carries a bitter satisfaction. Once Dutch's lover, she becomes increasingly unhinged and resentful as the gang spirals out of control. She lashes out in drunken rage, claiming to have betrayed Dutch to the Pinkertons. Her outburst shatters the illusion of loyalty that Dutch clings to, and in the moment, it feels like justice when Susan Grimshaw pulls the trigger, ending her ranting in cold blood. The satisfaction here isn't about cruelty, it's about inevitability. Molly's spiral represents the decay of the gang itself. Her death is brutal, abrupt, and senseless, but in the chaos of Beaver Hollow, it feels almost necessary. The gang cannot survive with loose threads, and Molly becomes a casualty of Dutch's pride. Watching her drop is shocking, but it also feels like a harsh punctuation mark on the gang's downfall, a grim satisfaction that the spiral of betrayal has claimed another victim.